So welcome everyone. The objective of this session is to present to you the Digital Energy Challenge and its third edition for this year, 2023. The objective being to give you the maximum of information about the challenge and for you to be able to either apply yourself with a project you may have, or to share the information to your network to enable valuable and quality applications for this year. So let's dive right in. So yeah, we had the first session this morning in French, so this will be a session in English. Obviously, if there are people that already joined this morning, you will get exactly the same information this afternoon. So feel free as you want to still join in on the English version or actually right. A little housekeeping, some practical information for the webinar. Could you please write in the chat your first name, last name is the full name of your organization. Ideally will be in the participant ID because you have the capability to do that. If you don't find the participant ID, you can put it in the chat. Second point, your microphone is muted by default. There are a number of participants, so we'll propose to keep it that way. Obviously, you can write your questions in the chat. And we'll be answering part of the questions during the session, and obviously there will be a time specific for questions at the end of the session, where we can dive right in and answer question by question, hopefully all your possible doubts about the challenge. And third, this webinar is recorded and will be accessible on the Digital Energy Challenge website. We'll share again links for the website page, the website recording, the webinar recording also, and you'll get all the information you need there. So no, we won't be sharing this presentation support in itself as a PDF. However, rest assured you'll get all the relevant and interesting information for you on the website, and obviously you'll still have access to a recording as necessary. So what's the agenda of today? First, we'll dive into what is the Digital Energy Challenge, a little bit of context also about the previous editions, because we're now at the third edition after 2021 and 2022. Second, we'll look at the eligibility criteria in terms of what type of structure you're in, but also in terms of themes of innovation that the challenge aims to support. Third, we'll detail a bit, in our view, why you should apply and why it's valuable for your projects and for the innovations you want to deploy in your respective geographies. Then how to apply. You see it's a quicker one, but we hope that everything is quite straightforward on how to apply. And as mentioned previously, we'll have a Q&A session. It's written here 30 minutes. Obviously, depending on the number of questions, we'll be able to extend a bit. The objective being to finish by an hour and a half at the latest. We may be in a position to close a bit sooner, depending on the number of questions. And so sorry, I didn't introduce myself. I'm Khalil Ababu. I'm coordinating the team in charge of organizing this challenge on behalf of AFD. Within Enea Consulting, and I'll pass the hand to Camille Plessis, who is with me in the room, and who will present to you the different items.
Yeah, I think first I let the floor to Nathan, which is in charge of presenting the Digital Energy Facility.
So yeah, Nathan.
Thank you, Camille. Hi, can you hear me well?
Perfect.
Okay, so let me introduce the Digital Energy Facility. So it's a program funded by the European Union and implemented by AFD. So the main objectives of the Digital Energy Facility are to support the integration of renewable energy, increase energy access, and improve the performance of power utilities and reduce technical and commercial losses. So in the Digital Energy Facility, you have 4 components. So the first one, the digitalization of utilities, basically technical assistance and training for public utilities. The third one is the creation of a digital energy community. So at the same time, a digital platform and a community of actors interacting, so utilities, startup, techno service provider, in order to network and to fund new projects. A fourth component, which is seed financing for innovative solutions. So it's contingent debt financing for startups. And finally, the second components, which we are presenting today, the Digital Energy Challenge, which is financing innovation for startup and partnership between utilities and techno service provider. So this is the third edition of the Digital Energy Challenge. And the last one will be next year in 2024. You can go to the next slide, please. So the Digital Energy Challenge team is first composed by the European Union and ADEME, which are financing this challenge. From AFD side, you have a team of 3 energy task team leaders, so Anne-Sophie Racout, Cyril Renaud, and Cédric Joseph Julien, who are in charge of the different components. So Cyril Renaud is mainly in charge of the Digital Energy Challenge from AFD side. And then AFD is helped by 3 consulting companies. So first one, Yele Consulting, my company. We are a team of 2 and we are helping AFD in the coordination of the Digital Energy Facility in general. And then more specifically to assist AFD on the organization and the follow-up of the Digital Energy Challenge and of the winner of the previous editions, Enea and AETS, so Khalil, Camille, and Jérôme and George. And finally, Victoria Marshall, who is helping us with the communication around the challenge.
Thank you, Nathan. So Camille speaking from Enea Consulting. We will explain you a bit what is the Digital Energy Challenge first, and then what are the eligibility criteria and how to apply. So the challenge is one of the major components of the Digital Energy Facility that Nathan just introduces. The main objective of that challenge is to promote digital innovations that both improve energy utility performance and increase energy access on the African country, on the African continent, sorry. So to do that, basically, there is 1 call for projects per year that lasts over 4 years. This year is the 3rd edition, so we already have done 2 call for projects in 2021 and 2022. And within this call for projects, there are 2 categories that you can apply in. The first one is the category for startups, where startups can apply. And the second one is the category for public utilities that are in partnerships with some technology or service providers. So this second category is mainly about partnerships between utilities and smaller private companies that provide an innovation. So the Digital Energy Challenge has a budget of 6 million euros over the 4 years that are provided by the EU, the European Union. And this budget is split between the 2 different categories. So we give 500,000 euros per year for the startup category and 1 million per year for the utilities one. And for this 2023 edition, all of Africa will be eligible. I mean, all of the projects developed in African countries will be eligible. If we go to the next slide, maybe a few words about the past call for projects. So as it's the 3rd edition, we have now some experience, and we have seen these 2 first successful call for projects in the past 2 years. In 2021, we have awarded 8 projects, so 5 startups and 3 partnerships between utilities and technology providers. It was open during spring 2021, and we have done an award ceremony in November 2021 in Paris. For this first edition, the projects were eligible projects were only located in sub-Saharan Africa, but then we decided to open the challenge more widely to the whole continent, and that's how it was done last year, and we kept that in 2023. These 2 editions were really a success. We had around 200 applications in a lot of different countries, so 34 countries that you can see. And if you want to find a bit more details about the previous winners, there are some challenge videos on YouTube, and you can find also some articles about the winners projects of last year on AFD websites. So don't hesitate to go and dig into these details to better understand who were the previous winners.
And the link for the videos has just been sent through the chat, so you can click right away and have it open on your computer.
Yeah, thank you, Khalil. And so if we go to the next slide, so today we are here to talk about the third edition. As you may know, we have opened the call for projects on March 1st, so 2 weeks ago. And now the call for projects is open until the 15th of May. So you have 2 months exactly from now to submit your application. The process is that you have to download an application pack online on the website of the AFD. In this application pack, you will find an application form that you have to fill, and you will also find the rules documents of the challenge with a lot of details about the themes, the eligibility criteria, and the whole process of that challenge. So then when you have downloaded that application pack, you will have to complete the application form and to prepare some required documents when needed. And then you will have to submit your application online on the website of AFD. So you will find a little button where you can see submit your application, and you can download in a form these application documents. In the meantime, we will also have an email permanence to answer questions from applicants through an email address that we will give you at the end of the presentation. And we are doing the challenge team preliminary analysis of the first applications that we received during this period. After the end of the application period, there will be a pre-selection committee. So we will select approximately 20 to 25 pre-selected applications. And if you are pre-selected, you will receive an answer in mid-June. And then if you are pre-selected, there will be some interviews with the challenge team so that we better understand your projects. And in the beginning of July, there will be a selection committee to finally choose the 10 to 12 winners. We will announce publicly the winning projects after the summer in September. And there will be probably the award ceremony in November and a boot camp of 2 days for the winners to gather around their win and their award. If we go to the next slide, maybe a few words on the eligibility criteria. So as I said before, there are 2 different categories for this challenge. First, the startup one, and second, the utility one. So I think I will just introduce first the eligibility criteria for startups, and then in a second time for utilities. So if you have a project to be eligible to apply, you have, as a startup, to be quite recent, so less than 10 years of existence. You have to have between 1 and 100 full-time employees. It means that you need to have at least 1 employee. The startup has to be local. It means that it has to be registered in an African country. The last eligibility criteria are around your size in terms of turnover and seed funding that should not exceed 1 million, both of them. NGOs can also apply, but they have to fulfill some requirements. First, they have to fulfill exactly the same requirements as startups, and then the project needs to be set up as a branch of the NGO and set up as a company, meaning that it has to have a dedicated team, a business plan, and it has to seek some profitability in these projects, in the framework of that project. If now we are looking at the digital energy challenge for utilities.
Yeah. Maybe Georges.
Yeah.
Yeah. No, just on startups, there are non-eligible entities.
Yeah, sure. So you are not eligible if obviously you are too big. So if you have more than 100 employees, and if you are too old, it means that you have been funded more than 10 years ago at the time of the application.
And maybe Georges, if you can hear us, or normally you can unmute. I propose maybe I'll take on this one. So in the same manner as Camille has explained for utilities, for startups, I'll explain the eligibility criteria for utilities. So first, and it's very important, utilities projects to be eligible are supposed to be presented as a partnership between a utility and an innovative technology or service provider. So there are criteria for both the utility on one side and the technology and service provider on the other. First, on the utilities, we're looking at public electrical power companies and organizations. So every type of entity that can own and operate assets related to the electrical network in a country. So it can be for a region, a smaller region, or a country. Looking at independent system operators, power pools, energy regulators, rural electrification authorities, and even private companies, but only in the case where they're operating a public service on behalf of a public entity in the context of a service concession. So an operator of a network, a private operator for a network located in Africa, that has as customer the public entity can be eligible. On the other side, the technology and service provider. So first, it needs to be formally registered to have a legal existence. The technology or service provider must have more than 5 employees and less than 50 million euro of our annual turnover and less than 15 years of existence. The idea here is that it's the only part in terms of eligibility where it can be technology or service providers that are not necessarily located in the country of the project or not necessarily located in Africa. We're really looking at an entity that can bring an innovation to the utility and bring something new in terms of deployment of digital innovation in the energy world to a specific partner, and the partner brings this local component. So this relationship between the African utility and the technology service provider, African or not, must be formalized at the stage of the application by some sort of official agreement type memorandum of understanding that can outline the goal of the partnership and its objective and its organization. So to take a few examples of non-eligible utilities or non-eligible projects, typically independent power producers are non-eligible utilities. So you are developing new renewable energy capacity and selling this to the grid. These projects certainly are very impactful and very positive, obviously, but they're not deemed as specifically innovative. And independent power producers are really private players and not necessarily contributing to the quality of the public service that is delivered. Also, typically, electrical market players that are only financial actors, typically retailers of energy contracts, but that don't own or operate any assets, where they only, not making it easy, but they only sell again capacity that is existing or contribute in an energy market of specific country are not eligible. And non-eligible projects are typically every projects that are directly connected with a highly carbonated activity. So obviously coal-fired power plants projects, any projects where electricity is produced from fuel oil and diesel, and any infrastructures associated with the production or storage of fossil resources. So yeah, to summarize here for utilities, it's always a partnership between two actors, a local utility and a technology provider that is not necessarily local, but this partnership needs to be formalized, and the project needs to be in one of the themes that we'll look at right away, and I'll leave the floor again to Camille to explain the themes.
And I see there are a lot of questions in the chat already, so that's great. We will just take them at the end of the presentation. Don't worry, we will answer them, but yeah, we just finished before that. So if you are eligible either to the startup or the utility category, then you have to comply to a theme of the challenge. So this year there are 3 themes that are common to both categories, startups and utilities. And the 3 themes are first, universal electricity access mini-grid, second, efficient grid management, and third, resilience and decarbonization of power systems. So I will just, in the next slides, explain the difference and what lies behind these themes, so that you can understand better if your project fits into one of them. So first, the theme 1 is around universal electricity access and mini-grids. So basically, it covers all the digital innovations in the field of mini-grids. So there is a need of a link between mini-grids and your project. And this innovation should maximize their efficiency and impact and improve their operations. So here you can see some examples of what your project could rely to. Obviously, it's not exhaustive. There are probably some other cases, but we tried to give you a sense of what it means. So, for example, your project could be around energy management systems for the optimal use of renewable energy. So some digital tools that help the integration of renewable energy in mini-grids, for example. It could also be some algorithms that efficiently integrate some productive use assets into a mini-grid system. It could also be some storage systems and algorithms to minimize the use of fossil fuel generators in some mini-grids. And you also have some tools to facilitate interconnections between the national grid and your mini-grids. It could be a tool to analyze some geospatial data for power demand evaluation for these mini-grids. So you have a lot of different tools that could be developed around that theme, which englobes all the mini-grids aspects. The second theme is about efficient grid management. So here you have all the digital services and products that support the operation of the grid, the national grid. And it could fall into different categories of digital services. The first one would be all the information system related to that grid. For example, grid data sharing, the fact to put some IoT-enabled systems to better understand what's the state of the grid at a time. It could be about grid mapping improvement. So there is a lot of things to do around data and especially simultaneous data on grids. The second aspect is about the operational management practices of the power systems. So it could be the implementation of maintenance tools to better optimize the asset's lifetime. It could be about the implementation of tools that analyze the grid's risk profile and better understand some extreme events to get more resilience. And the third aspect of this theme is around the increase of power availability and service quality, typically better customer relationship thanks to service digitalization or just technological development that allow to reduce the losses, could be non-technical losses or technical losses. And also better digital tools that help to minimize some load shedding. So this was around, in general, what we call efficient grid management. If we look at the third theme, this theme groups a number of digital-based solutions that enable the development of both a greener and a more resilient power infrastructure. Could be about generation systems as well as the grid. So when we talk about that, it's more about tools that help the addition of renewable capacity to a system. Typically, better manage the addition of renewable capacity on the grid. It will also be around grid stability and flexibility. For example, the integration of battery systems, energy storage, the fact to have some virtual power lines, or even some solutions to enhance peer-to-peer trading. And the last thing that we talk about when we talk about resilience of power system is the energy savings at the end user level. So demand response management and some smart metering solutions to improve some consumption monitoring. So if your project falls into one of these three thematics, then it's also eligible to the challenge. And there is a last component that really needs to be here so that you can be pre-selected. I mean, two things that are quite important. The first one is that your project has to be local. What it means is that the management activities have to be in the country where the activity and the project takes place. And there need to be at least one full-time employee in this country. So that's the definition of local. And the second component that your project really has to have is to be digital. So it must include some digital technologies, either at the core value proposition of your project or either in the business model, but it really needs to be a digital part in it.
If I may add here something, if there is maybe one word that can, in the maximum, try to summarize it all, it's the innovation word. The aim of the facility, and within the facility, the aim of the challenge is really to support innovation in digital in energy, digital innovation in energy in Africa. So one first question to ask yourself when thinking about a project you may want to submit is, what is the criteria of innovation? Is it something that is already done, already mastered, or are we doing something new, or at least not already known in this geography? That's really this term of innovation is a key point, and is a point that will be seen during the application phase, but also all the pre-selection and selection phase will be guiding also the reflections of the team organizing the challenge.
Yes, and around what I just said about the eligibility criteria, the themes, etc., you can find all that details in the rules document that is available into the application pack that you download on the website of AFD. So in this application pack, you have an Excel form that you have to fill to complete your application, but you also have these rules documents that is quite long and very detailed, and all that I said, I mean, all that we present today is within that document.
To answer maybe a question that has already been asked and will be asked probably a couple of times more, no, we won't be sharing the presentation, but there on what Camille just said, on the application pack and on the link of the challenge that you get here in the chat, I pinned the links there. You'll get all relevant information in way more detail than the one we're putting right now. So for instance, for the teams, you'll get more elements on the type of projects that can enter, more ideas also. So please don't hesitate to click on the links and look at the documents. We hope they're as comprehensive as possible. And obviously the team, and then we'll come back to it, but the team will remain obviously at your disposal if there is an unanswered question in these documents.
Yeah, so when the challenge team will assess the different applications, we will look at three main criteria. The first one is around digital and innovation. As was saying Khalil before, it's a very important part that your project must be innovative. It can be innovative either intrinsically, it means that you're already offering something new that doesn't exist, or in a sense it can also be innovative in a sense that it has not been deployed in a local geography. So it's called as a geographical innovation because you bring something that was not there before. Second, we will look at the impacts and the benefits of your project. So the fact that it can be replicable and scalable, and that it's addressing some issues and barriers that are not addressed today by other actors in your context. And also we will look at the positive impacts of your projects, the fact that it creates jobs, that it reduces some CO2 emissions, that there are some women empowerment, education, environmental benefits that could emerge from that project. And thirdly, we will look at the path to success, so the economics of your project, the fact that you have a credible team to address the issue that you want to tackle, the fact that you have a risk mitigation plan, either for economics risks, but also for environmental, social risks that could occur. And if you want to have a sense of the exact scoring methodology that we will take to proceed to this pre-selection phase, there are some other details in the rules, the document that we were just mentioning before, that is available in the application pack. And so we will look at these three components kind of on the same weight. And at the end, this will give a final score that would help us differentiate the different applications. If we go to the next slide, so why should you apply to this call for project? What are the benefits that you can get for your project? First thing is that you will receive a financial reward. It will be in the form of two different things. First, a grant funding, so basically a subvention. And secondly, a technical assistance, which means it's a service from another company that the call for project will pay for you. And you will obviously also have some increased visibility thanks to social media communication from AFD, specifically during the award ceremony. And during this award ceremony, you will meet the different winners from your promotion, and you will have the occasion to talk with them and create some synergies and network with the different winners of that challenge. When we talk about the grant funding amounts, so for startups, it will be up to 150,000 euros. So for each startup, this amount will include technical assistance, and it can be up to that amount, but it could be less if you need less than that. For utilities, the amounts of the grants will go up to 500,000 euros. And it also includes the technical assistance. And yeah, I think that's all that you will have. These grants will be given on timeline of 18 months maximum. So there will be several payments of these funds around the deployment of the project up to 18 months.
Maybe one precision here as to for the amounts of the financial reward. Projects can be subsidized and supported financially from 50% to 100%. So let me give you an example. A project for a startup where the whole project costs 400,000 euro may be too big for a startup, or the challenge won't be able to support. But for a project, for instance, for a startup that the project costs 100,000, it can be up to 100,000 of subsidy, or for instance 50,000. But anywhere ranging around this. The idea is that the challenge doesn't aim to support on a very minority basis projects. The idea really is to push forward projects. So the challenge won't be putting like 20% of the amount necessary for a project. So the idea is to submit projects that are designed with these amounts in mind.
Yes, so applicants will be accompanied along the way. So you will be accompanied along the way. We have tried to provide some detailed guidelines to fill the application form in the Excel. You also have a FAQ page on the website where you have some answers to questions that applicants usually ask. And if you are a utility or technology provider, but you haven't found your partner yet, when you are downloading the application pack, you have the opportunity to ask for support to find a partner, and we will try to help you to find the good partner. There will also some, for the awardees, for the winners, there will be also a lot of accompaniment from the challenge team. So we will provide support to identify technical assistance provider if you need it. Sometimes you already have in mind what you want, but sometimes we can help to guide you into these needs. We will provide you with all the templates for grant agreements, for periodic reporting, so that we can follow the project's milestones. And also the funding will be granted through advanced payments. That was I was saying before. And you will be accompanied all along the way of these payments.
Really here, I want to emphasize on this point. That was really our objective here, is to minimize any constraints for applications, to push the number of applications and the quality of applications. The objective being that if you manage to spend less time on the practicalities and more time on the content of the projects, we hope that it will also support you in providing and submitting more valuable projects. All the documents normally are updated on the page, are as complete as possible. So to give you an example, we noted 2 points on the FAQ during the webinar this morning in French, where really only the formulation was not like 100% clear. So we'll modify this, and the document available through the website will be updated with this. Obviously, if there are other updates from this webinar, we'll be happy to put it. So what I want to say here, all the information normally, and that has been tested for 2 years now, is as complete as possible. And the idea is for you to win time in application and also in reporting afterwards. So please don't hesitate to have a thorough look at the documents. And based on that, if there are still open questions, we'll be happy to support. And the role of the team here is really to help you guys and to make sure that the applications are there and that we have a successful challenge, all of us. But let's focus as much as possible on what is already available on the documents, because we really do think that vast majority of the questions will be already answered there. This also, just to finish on this is also the reason why we don't share documents as attachments. We share only the links to the pages, because the pages are always up to date. If we have any addition or edit or precision to make to anything in the challenge, it will be done on the document. So yeah, the great transition here. First, this is exactly this sentence that I pinned in the chat on the Teams session, so you can access directly the link right now on the Teams session. Please don't hesitate to click and to go to this page. It is really the central page where from there you can get all the information. You can access to the recordings of the webinar, you can access to the application pack, you can access everything in the application pack, meaning the FAQ that Camille has mentioned, the rules of the challenge that Camille has mentioned also. So really, I will be repeating myself also during the Q&A session, I'm sure, but these links are the central points for you to be able to apply in the due time. Second, you can fill the pre-inscription form and download the application pack for startups and utilities. Again, these are other links here, but obviously from the first link you can access everything. So again, the first link, you have it, and from there you can find everything, and then you can complete the application form. So you visit the challenge website, you get all the information, you can fill in the pre-inscription form to be able to download the application pack. And once you have the application back, you can complete it and prepare and submit your application. Again, the timeline is before the 15th of May at the end of the day, Central European time. So please submit your project by this deadline, where actually the application will be closed at that day. By then, as Camille has said, we have so all the information is available, obviously, but we monitor the challenge email address, so you can ask any questions. If the informations are not complete enough or not answering your eventual doubts on the challenge, you can send an email to the challenge address, and we'll make sure to answer as quickly as possible, including, for instance, for utilities or for technological providers, if you need to build a partnership in the timeline of the challenge, we can be a support to try to identify the right doors to knock on and the right people to call to try and build a partnership. In our experience, this is maybe the most time-consuming part of an application for a utility. So if you're either a utility or a techno service provider and looking for applying to the utilities challenge and don't have a partnership yet, don't hesitate to reach out. And so that was for you guys to be applicants to the challenge. But if you see that in the themes, the themes are not 100% aligned with what you're doing, or feel that in your network there will be other startups or utilities that fit into the challenge's objectives and criteria, please promote the challenge. A successful challenge is a challenge where we have a number of quality applications, and that maximum number of projects can be rewarded and supported for the development. So we're looking for a maximized impact. So don't hesitate to be an advocate for us and support the challenge by sharing the information. So again, the best way to share the information, obviously, is the challenge's webpage. It's one link, it's easy, and you know that within this link, the people you'll share it with will get all the information. There's the challenge brochure that you can access also on the webpage. And also you can find social media posts, LinkedIn or Twitter, typically for the English version, that are published through different social media accounts, including the AFD social media account that publicizes of the challenge. And so now we're arriving to maybe the end of the presentation part. So we have 45 more minutes, which is great for questions. What I propose is that we take the questions chronologically from the start, from the beginning. Obviously, you can still add questions on the bottom, and we'll go in point by point and try to answer the maximum. When any question is answered, I will like the message, so we're sure that the question has the question has been dealt with. Obviously, if you feel that the answer is not satisfactory, please don't hesitate to write again.
Yeah, I think we have a first question from Alem. Yeah. Is 10 years establishment a must for startups? The answer is no. We are not looking at the number of years of creation of the startup. You just need to be less than 10-year-old, but there is no other thing around that.
Yes, so really less than 10 years and not more than 10 years. So yeah, we're looking at it, but it's maybe the right side for you, if I understand the question.
Yeah. There is another question from Andrea. Can an entity apply both as a startup in the startup call and as an innovative technology service provider in partnership with a utility under the utility call? In theory, yes. So if you apply to, if you are eligible to all of the criteria of the two categories, so technology provider and startups, you can apply to both calls. but we really encourage you to choose one of them and to do one application that is qualitative and that is the most that has the most chance to be selected, rather than just doing 2 applications that will be less qualitative and that you don't have enough time to have a proper project application. So yes, in theory, you can apply to both categories, but we really encourage you to choose one of them. The one that is the most obvious for your project and the best one, depending also on the amount that you need, because they are not the same.
So maybe the next question, Joao Vieira Silva, saying, although you mentioned that the technology provider does not necessarily need to be local, in the guidelines it mentions the following: the entity fall in priority within the geographical scope defined in 3.2, fall in priority. So when you mentioned the guidelines, maybe it's the rules of the. Let me just find exactly the mention of this point in the rules. For so I'm not sure to know exactly where what part you refer on this point, and I don't find it because on my side I find directly a supplier of technology or innovative services doesn't need to necessarily be implanted locally. So maybe can I ask you to precise your question?
Yeah, I think the in priority. Yeah, that's right. That's
maybe yeah, it's in 4.2.2 saying okay, just a second.
I think the in priority means that it's better if you're local, mainly for the sake of the project success and the fact that it will be more impactful and create jobs in the locality, but it's not a rule. So if the technology provider is not local, that's okay. It's not a criterion for the rule, so you are still eligible. But obviously, that makes more sense to build a partnership between 2 actors that are in the same country. I think the in priority is just to say that.
Yeah, maybe to precise also on this, the objective again, the one of the key objectives of this challenge is to support innovation in the continent. Typically, if a technology or service provider is located outside the continent and has developed its innovation outside the continent, and then typically a software developer and the software is built already and the objective is to buy the software and to deploy it, will feel that the innovation isn't really located in Africa. So we're not really looking at necessarily legal based in the targeted country for technology or service providers, but the one of the criteria that will be looked at is where is the innovation located.
Then there is a question of Nicoletta. I would like to understand better the eligibility for an NGO set up as a company. Would the social enterprise locally registered to be eligible then? So the NGO can apply to the challenge for startups, provided that either the project and the team that is leading the project is a branch of the NGO that is set up as a company. Either the activity for which the NGO applies is planned to spin off as a company in the coming years. So it has a dedicated team, it has a business plan, and it respects all the criteria of a startup. Or either the activity for which the NGO applies is clearly targeting profitability in the coming years. So an NGO can apply as soon as the project that is funded is leading towards sustainability and towards a profitable activity. Would the social enterprise locally registered to be eligible then? I think if it fulfills the the startup criteria. Yes.
Maybe to come back at the earlier question, Fatomata Tunkara said, we provide electricity or rural areas are eligible to participate. If the scope of the project is focused on providing electricity, maybe not. But I encourage you to dig a bit deeper, maybe. The main question to ask yourself about the eligibility is it innovative? So if typically you're installing solar panels in an off-grid system and connecting a few people locally to these solar panels, maybe it's not as innovative as others, but if in providing the electricity in rural areas, you're in a connection with the network and are building the project in a way that makes sense also for the electricity network and provides services as well to the larger community through the exchanges with the network via an innovative project, certainly yes. So as is, when I say electricity in rural areas, I tend to think that maybe probably not, but if there is some sort of innovation or some sort of service that is provided to the network, you'll be able to participate and be eligible. The next one.
The next question is from Olatimiwa. So a startup is ineligible if it's raised more than 1 million in safe funding, even if it meets the other criteria. Unfortunately, the answer is yes. If you have raised more than 1 million, I think it doesn't really matter if it's safe funding or seed funding. It's too much. But I mean, you could still apply in the technology and service provider utility category if you find a partner, probably a public utility.
Yeah. In that case, it will be in the other side, on the utility and technology service provider, and not on the startup side. Maybe I'll take the next one. Maputi said, we would like to partner with the utility company as an entry. And from the requirements, I want to find out which takes priority, the technology or service provider on the less than 15 years experience. Our company has over 15 years experience in water-related services, but our electricity department is younger than 10 years and has less than 10 years experience. Our technology initially mainly focused on water service and innovation, and now the technology used is applied to electricity, and we have new technologies to implement as well. So I'll speak under Camille's control here, but in my understanding, the legal entity that is pushing the project and owning the project must be meeting the criteria of the challenge. So that does mean that if this new entity that is the electricity department is totally linked with the older, more established water department, it is probable that you won't be eligible as a techno provider because you won't be meeting the criteria. Then, depending on the structure of your company, maybe there are configurations where your project, simply concerning electricity, can be eligible. So I encourage you to really have a look at the rules, and specifically on what is a techno service provider, and to possibly try and find a way where the structure that will be submitting the project will be meeting these criteria, which are the main challenge criteria.
I think the next question is James. For the message from James is not really a question. They are just saying that they are an early stage renewable energy company. The next question from Joao, I think George, can you hear us?
Yes.
Because
yes.
Can you hear me?
Yes.
Yeah.
Okay.
I think the next question will you can answer it. It's a person that say that concerning the project, the guidelines mention that they need to have already been tested under real conditions, be actionable, and have 12 months to market implementation. And this means that, for example, if they want to develop an energy management platform for a mini grid, but the development still needs to be carried, this is not eligible.
No, I should say no. They can complete their development benefiting of the challenge. This has happened in the past. We have to analyze carefully the stage where they are, but we cannot say no in principle. Huh?
Yeah. Totally agree with Georges here, and thanks Georges for the input. Totally agree here. In my view, it's really an innovative project that needs to be pushed, that is clearly fitting the theme of the challenge. So depending on the current status of the project, you'll be able to ask for the relevant support for you to deploy the project and to go forward with your project.
So I can complete. So either you submit your, you applic.
We lost you, Georges.
The deadline, but they can, if the effort is not too big, they can propose their application, and we'll see.
Yeah, totally agree. So James said that please share the presentation as it provides a detailed guide for the approach for submitting the applications. Again, we'll share the link to the web page, and we do encourage you to have a look at the link because trust us, you'll find all this information and way more on these links. And obviously, you'll have what you'll have afterwards also in the link are the recording of this session, so you'll be able to have a look at the slides within the recording, and also to have all our comments in link with the presentation.
Yes, the next question is what are the mini grid size that innovation need to apply to? I think there is no mini grid size criterion, so yeah, it could be small or big. It depends. There is no criteria on that. On
the next one, to Misang, so yes, the recording will be shared. You'll be able to access it through the link that is available on the pinned message, and through there in 1 or 2 days you should be able to access the recording without any problem.
Yeah, I think Victoria shared the link just below on the page where the webinar recording will be accessible in a few years.
Yeah, in a few days.
In a few days, sorry. So next question, less than 15 years existence is a hard limit for technology providers. Yes.
Sorry for that. But yeah, there are criteria, and there's obviously a definition of scope, and some line needed to be put there. And the idea being to support structures that would most need this support. So yes. Cholo said ANASA is a South African company, and we noted that SA local municipality, Umvoti local municipality. Can we be connected with Mr. Jitesh Mewa of Umvoti? Maybe it's a question that being as precise, what I do recommend is please send us this request via the email address of the website of the challenge, and we'll take it on separately with hopefully Georges or Jérôme that are well the utility sector, electricity utility sector in Africa, and that can hopefully support you in this building of this partnership. But being this very specific question, I'll let it maybe to take it up offline, and please send us an email. We'll be happy to help.
I understand that maybe Mr. Mewa is in the participants. So if Mr. Mewa wants also to just connect with with the person that asked the question. I mean, you're both in the call, so you can maybe send you a message.
Yeah, Mr. Jitesh Mewa Umvuti is connected.
Yeah. I think that was the purpose of the question.
Okay. So yeah, please. You have possibility normally to send a specific message, and if the question is still open after the session, please send the email, and we're happy to help.
Yeah. Then there is a question from Joao. You mentioned that the project can be 100% funded. However, in the guidelines mentioned that the utility and service provider in kind at financial contribution should be significant, at least 20%. Can you please clarify? Yes, you are 100% right. When we were mentioning the 100% funding, we were talking about the startup category. It doesn't apply to the utility and technology or service provider partnership, where the participants, I mean the parts have to bring some financial contribution to the whole project. So in that case, the challenge won't fund the total of that project, and all that rules are clarified in the rule documents, and you have the two cases, utilities and startup, that are clearly explained. And because there are a lot of numbers, I don't think it's really easy for me here to just say that already. It's better just to read the rule documents to understand that.
Thank you, Camille, for this answer. And I do believe that the question was asked because I was not so clear beforehand. So really sorry if I gave a mistaken information on this. And yeah, Camille has been, I hope, very clear on this. The next one, if the digital solution cuts across all the three themes, how would you suggest we position the solution offering? So it can happen. So we try to design the themes in a way that is as less as possible with like projects that can fit several teams, but it can happen, obviously. If it does happen, we encourage you to submit once your project to the most relevant theme. You will be able, obviously, to have one flagship objective or key benefit that your project brings, either to your users, either to the network, or to other beneficiaries of the project. So what we encourage you to do, Cholo, is really to select the one that fits the most. You can obviously in the comments precise that in your view it fits also others, but it will help us a lot if you can choose one theme when you submit.
Yeah, and it's not a big deal if you choose one theme or the other. It doesn't disadvantage you to choose one or the other. We will look at the three themes on the same weight, and it's not entering into the selection process. So just choose the one that is the most relevant for your project.
The question from Christina, is this for outside Mozambican? So I'm not sure to understand the question in its entirety, but the challenge is applicable to every African country that submits any project. So Mozambique is for me.
Yeah, it's in the list.
So Mozambique is in the list, and all the other countries in Africa are in the list also. I'll take the next one. Will the presentation slides be available for everyone? No, not in itself, but you'll get the recording on the website page. And we do encourage you to visit the challenge website. So the link to the recording in itself has been sent by Victoria a bit above on the chat. And the link to the challenge website is pinned in the conversation. Please don't hesitate to bookmark it. You'll get, during the progress of the challenge, all the relevant information and updated. This is why also we don't share attachments, because we try to make sure that all documents are as up to date as possible when people need to access them.
Then there is a question from Oladimeji. Is there a specific format to submit your solution? Yes, there is a specific form that you need to fill so that you can complete your application. This form is an Excel form that is accessible online on the challenge website that you can download. Then when you have downloaded it, you just fill it. So you fill the Excel form, and then you submit this Excel form online on the challenge website, on the same website where you have downloaded the application pack.
Great, I'll take the next one. Anna, do organizations that have a mainly NGO and digital mandate, can they apply? I'll take also for the next one, I'll show again the criteria, the eligibility criteria for startups and then for utility. So for startups, it can be also applied to NGOs. So the answer to the question is yes. And NGOs, if they want to submit a project, they need to meet the same criteria as the startups, so less than 10 years of existence, at least 1 employee and up to 99 full-time employees, must be local, less than 100 million annual turnover and less than 100 million raised in seed funding. And with a specific precision for NGOs is that it can be a branch of the NGO that is set up as a company, or an activity for the NGO applies is planned to spin off as a company in the coming years, has a dedicated team and a business plan. Really, we're looking at projects that are aiming at some point at building something profitable. So it needs, in the end, even if it's an NGO, to be for profit. And maybe for the next question, I'll leave this one on the screen and let you take it, Kevin.
Yes, the question is, a utility can, it's Joao again, a utility can apply together with more than one service provider. I mean, it's not really in the framework of the challenge. The project can involve more stakeholders than one technology provider, but the application will be between one utility and one technology provider.
Yeah, to precise, again, as mentioned, this business relationship must be formalized through some sort of legal document. We can imagine that it can be already quite difficult to have something signed in a short time frame for the challenge. So it may be even more difficult to have it signed with multiple parties. So in your case, maybe the objective will be to find to have one core partnership that is the partnership that is sending the application, and then other stakeholders as necessary.
Yeah. Then we have a question from Bolaji. I like to ask that must the project or product be made by the applicant? I think I'm not sure to understand the question, but if I understand well, you want to, if you are a startup, you are asking, does the startup need to develop themselves the innovation? The answer is no, actually. The innovation in itself can come from another startup, but
maybe the innovation here on the screen, you can find it again. The project may be innovative, either interestingly, it means that developed by the entity, or it's really something in itself totally new. And it can be deemed innovative if it's not deployed in a local context. So let's take, for example, your startup in a specific geography. You have not developed the solution, but you know that this solution makes sense in the geography that you're targeting and is not existing in that geography. So then it's maybe not innovative in the same way as if you had developed directly the project or the solution, but it's still deemed innovative. So my view maybe on this question, we'll need maybe more details on your if necessary during your application, I'll be happy to come back to you if there's more specific elements. But normally, I would guess yes, and the criteria being that if it's if it's still innovative where it's deployed, and that this innovative criteria is confirmed.
Yes. Then there is a question from Kenneth. Can local company apply with a partner as a rule? So just to clarify, if you're a startup, you don't need to apply with a partner. You just apply for your project. If you are a technology provider or a utility, you have to apply with a partner. That's a rule, even if you are local. Then we have the following question of Joao in terms of evaluation. If the technology provider is not local, is it the same? Yes, it's the same. We will not discriminate technology providers that are not local. But for utilities and startups, you have to be local. Then there is a question from Toe. To apply for a project that interlinks with the power utilities in the country, and the magnitude of the projects requires a large startups, does it require my business to be in partnership with the power utility?
So just again, not sure. Let me rephrase, make sure we understood. So apply for projects that interlink with the power utility in the country and the magnitude of the project. Okay. So if it's in partnership with the power utility of the country, then you'll be, I guess, submitting your project to the utility side. So then it's rather large because the criteria for a technology or service provider are actually larger than the criteria for startups. So you'll be looking at, if I understood well the context, submission of a project in partnership between a technology or service provider and a utility. If you're looking at only to submit as a startup and not in partnership with the utility, then the criteria for startup will apply. So if it's your company is not meeting these criteria, you won't be able to be eligible. So really, the first guess would be yes, it requires it, but you won't be applying as a startup, but rather as a technical service provider in partnership with the utility. Jonas?
Yeah, there is a question from Jonas. So African Drive is an e-mobility company focusing on battery technology. We are considering to apply jointly with a utilities company because you have a balancing function of the grid, but your read e-mobility is excluded. Why? So to elaborate on that, we exclude e-mobility when the projects are about developing some mobility, electrical mobility. For example, a company that just manufactures electric cars. But if your project is mainly aimed at supporting the grid through e-mobility, then it's eligible. So your project seems eligible if the balancing function for the grid, especially in a context when you are partnering with a utility company, it's definitely in the theme and it's eligible. We are just excluding electrical mobility when it really applies to the development of a fleet, and it has no link with the electrical grid.
And in several cases, really the one point is that we're trying to aim at projects that are the most innovative related to the grid and related to the electricity service. So in this, as Camille has well said, if you're providing a service to the grid and having benefit for the grid and in exchange with the grid on the deployment of the project, then obviously it's super eligible.
Yeah. Then we have a question from Binyam. If a company is local but owned by other nationalities, will it be eligible? The answer is yes. Then we have a question from Barnabas. Can the fund be used to subsidize and cater for prototypes? The answer is yes. And you can find all the type of items that can be funded in the rules documents. You have a list of different funding elements so that you can see what can be funded or not. But in your case, it's yes. A question from Kingfin. I hope the presentation has been recorded. Yes, it will be shared on the webinar's presentation page, web page. Same question from Patrick. We shared these video webinars. Yes, it will be on the web page. Then a question from Andrea. Can an innovative service provider be a partner in both calls to two different entities, startup and utility? First, if you're in the startup call, you don't need to have a partner.
Yeah.
That's the first thing. You just need to have a partner in the utility call. And then you say in neither of the two, the mentioned innovative service provider is the leading applicant, but there are two entities. Is this possible, or we should choose the support only one?
There is no problem with this in itself. So let me read again the question. In neither of the two mentioned innovative the innovative service provider is the leading applicant, but there are two entities, a startup in one market and a utility in another market, that want to have the mentioned service provider as a partner in their respective proposals. So yes, if the startup in its market normally doesn't need to submit a joint proposal along with the service provider. So you can, in your case, Andrea, be in a model where the startup on its side will submit an application for as a startup, and on the other side, in the other country, the utility will need to build a partnership with the service provider to submit a joint application. Let me just precise one thing. All the criteria still apply. So if the service provider to be able to submit an application with the utility need to comply with the eligibility criteria for the service provider, technology service provider, and in the startup, for them to be able to apply, also they need to share the innovative, to show the innovative criteria of the solution. So to be clear, if the service provider in itself is really a software that needs only to be like deployed in different geographies, maybe the innovative criteria will be more difficult to demonstrate. So the answer is yes, it's possible. You'll be able to submit startup only and utility with service provider, and in all cases you'll still be subject to the several eligibility criteria.
Yeah, and just one thing to precise, the utility is not the leading applicant. When you submit an application for a partnership between a utility and a technology provider, your application in an application of two entities. For example, in the Excel form that you have to fill, you will have questions for the utility entity and for the technology provider. So you're not a second part, a smaller part of the project. You are an entity that apply in partnership with the utility. It's different from the startup call when you apply alone. And if you want to choose to support, and again, something that we said before, if you are considering applying to both calls, we strongly encourage you to do that. We encourage you to only choose one of the two calls and to choose the one that is the most obvious for your case and that give you the most chances to be selected afterwards.
To come back to the next question from Just Chiota, in the utility stream, is a university or research center eligible to act as an innovative technology or service provider?
If you are fulfilling the criteria of a technology service provider, meaning more than 5 employees, less than 50 million euro turnover, etc., the different criteria that we showed before, if you are fulfilling them, yes. If not, no.
So next one, will you please share the presentation after this meeting? I encourage you to have a read at the links pinned in the chat. We have given all the information with the link, and within the link you'll find the recording of the session including obviously the slides in the recording. But the slides in themselves as a PDF file won't be shared. But in the website, again, you can find all the relevant information, including in way more detail than what has been shown today.
Then we have a question from Oladimeji. As a startup, if we outsource software development to people outside the startup, what are the implications? You can do that, and you can still apply as the project leader that is leading the project development. You just have to mention clearly in the application form that the software development is outsourced. It has to be very clear in your application form, but it doesn't prevent you to apply.
And then the costs for the outsourced software development can be covered as part of the costs for the project that you have.
Then we have a question from Fatoumata. As we are in 4 countries in Africa, is it possible to apply with more than 1 country if we are eligible? I mean, yes, it could be theoretically possible, but we encourage you to choose the country where you will develop the project, the main country where you will develop the project. It doesn't mean that it prevents you to bring then this innovation in other countries. But when you apply, just do 1 application, choose 1 country, and maybe specify then in the other categories, like when you describe the project, you can specify that you will also deploy it in other countries. But choose 1 country and do 1 application.
We'll get a reply to the questions later from Christina. I'm not sure to understand. Please precise in maybe another question. Andra Caballero, less than 10 years experience, we answered. Okay, so on the hard limit for the 15 years experience, on website less than 10 years, or have already developed an innovative solution to be tested with the challenge. So as a technology service provider, the 15 years is the hard limit. Let us check again this wording.
No, it's the same question as this morning.
Yeah.
There is a mistake on the FAQ, and we will change it in the week. And yes, it's 15 years old trade.
So less than 15 years and have already developed the solution. So yeah, we confirm it. It is a hard limit. We'll precise this. Can you share the link to the recording and the slides of this webinar? So the link to the slides are pinned to the conversation, Patrick. So if you go to the chat on top, you have a message from me with the link. And within this link, you'll get all links to the webinars also. Ishak, thank you for your presentation. Is there any particular encouragement for you to submit an application early in case you have a limit to the number of applications to review, or can we submit anytime before the deadline without having to worry about submitting later? You don't have to worry about submitting later. The 15th of May is the hard stop, so 16th of May it will be too late. So obviously, we welcome any application before, as it wins us personally a bit of time in a very tight period. But there won't be any negative impact on your application if you submit later during the period. It's really open from now until in 2 months on the 15th of May. Next one. Okay, Joao, there are still a number of questions. If you have still other open questions, I encourage you to send us an email and detail your situation. We won't be answering this one now. Alam, can you share with us email address for especially questions? Yes. You have it right here on the slide. Please don't hesitate to contact us if you have still open questions. I'll put it right away again on the chat. Happy to answer any question if they are not answered now, and if they are not answered in the on the website. Then coming, I'm not answering to the next question from Joao. Neil, can we send the link, please? No, you have Neil. You have access to it pinned So you have direct access. It's on top. You don't need to go scrolling on the top. It's really pinned. So you see my name, Khalil Ababou, and then you see a message. You can click on it and you have access to the link there. Joao, I will leave you to answer, to ask a question via the email as said previously. Michel Tamasala, what is your understanding of innovative? What are the criteria for you to decide whether the submitted project is innovative or not? So there is a whole section on the rules of the challenge on what is innovative, and where we detail what is an innovative project. As stated in the presentation, there are several criteria. It can be innovative in itself. It can be innovative because it doesn't exist in the local context, but you'll get more detail in the rules.
Mainly when it's innovative, it's because it addresses barriers that are not addressed today. And you will have to justify why you think that your project is innovative in the form, in the Excel form, and we encourage you to arguments on that, and that's how we decide whether the submitted project is innovative or not, depending on your reasons. I mean, the reasons that you point out.
Yeah. We made an application more than 2 weeks ago, but did not receive any feedback. It's normal, Christina. We'll be looking at giving majority of the feedback during the after the selection has been the challenge phase is over. But we did receive a number of applications up to now, so normally your application is well received.
So you will receive your feedback in June.
Stuart is an owner of a single of multiple mini-grids, a utility.
No, except if you are operating under the behalf of an African state. If you have a delegation of service.
Yeah, please have a look. It will be my criteria. Will be a yes, but please have a look at the eligibility criteria for utilities also, as there are also criteria for financial establishment, years of existence, and types of relationship with the local government. So would need a bit more detail to answer this one. This is a project with a solution for energy savings, so solid state lighting manufacturing, which saves. Yes, we're looking at which saves 90% energy consumption in lighting eligible. Yes, we're looking at energy savings as potential eligible projects for resilience and decarbonization of power systems with theme 3. However, you will need to be able to prove the local criteria, the innovative criteria also.
And also the digital parts, because what I see, solid state lighting, I think the innovation lies into a physical innovation. We are really looking at digital innovation. So if there is no digital path in your project, it will not be eligible.
Yeah.
So it depends where lies your innovation.
Joao again will answer in an email if you detail a bit more. Or electronics, we just answered the question. Alex, if the mini grid partnering with the battery as a service company is linked to the grid, does it work? It could, but again, the criteria is the mini grid eligible to the utility criteria, and then maybe you can build a partnership with the techno service provider, but the eligibility criteria still is fixed and needs to be met. Neil Human from Westor, with an advanced lead acid battery provider of patented technology, qualifies innovative under theme 1. Innovative, potentially yes, but then again, it's physical and not necessarily digital. It will be the same answer as for solid state lighting manufacturing before. So
and also it has to be linked to mini grids. Here you have battery in itself, but it's not. I mean, obviously it's helping mini grids if you're selling your battery to mini grids, but does it bring a digital innovation? That's really the question, and it depends on your project.
Yeah, sure. Thank you. And I do believe we finished now for the questions. We have 1 minute delay, but we started 2 minutes later, so it leaves us just the time to thank you all for participating, for all your questions. We hope that it's clearer, that you'll be able to submit quality applications. Again, please have a look to the challenge webpage. You'll find all the relevant information there. From there, you can access the recording of the session. You can access the application pack. You can access communication material for you to share the information about the Digital Energy Challenge. There is the address here, contact@afddigitalenergychallenge.com. If you have any open questions after looking at these several documents and looking at this presentation, and the other address for the Digital Energy Facility. We count on you guys for great innovation and great projects, and we hope to be able to see you soon, discuss with you soon, and support your projects in the upcoming months.
Have a good day.
Thank you.